since you were young, right?
Since I was 10.
Yeah, because your brother was diagnosed when he was 5?
Yeah.
Right? Okay, and so then I think I read you did like door-to-door stuff, right?
I did.
And so like from when you were little, you were like, this is what I want to do, right? Like it was your passion?
Yeah, so, my parents, Will was diagnosed, and so he was put in the hospital for about a week.
Okay.
So my parents, came home from the hospital to tell my older brother, Thor, and I that Will had been diagnosed with type 1 diabetes, which, I had such a limited knowledge of as a 10-year-old girl in the 5th grade.
Right.
So they brought us to the hospital to see our younger brother. And for whatever reason, kind of as his big older sister, I was like, I just felt like this determination of like, I want to be his big sister. And I made a promise to him in that hospital room, like I will do whatever it takes to help find a cure for diabetes, and I will do whatever it takes to help improve his life. So literally from that moment on in 1996, December 1996, I started knocking on neighborhood doors in Baxter, Minnesota. I'd go around with this clipboard, knocking on doors, raising money for the American Diabetes Association. I mean, I think my parents are like, what has gotten into this girl? Like, I'm just like, knocking on doors, raising money. I'd show them a picture of my little brother and raising thousands of dollars for diabetes. And then I started talking in classrooms at the elementary school about diabetes because I found right out of the gate when Will was diagnosed, people really had a misunderstanding of what diabetes was. They would say things to Will like, your parents gave you too much sugar. That's why you got diabetes. Or they would say, you didn't exercise enough. Even though Will's this 5-year-old kid in preschool who's 40 pounds, right? Who's this active, rambunctious kid. And I was like, how unfair. But for some reason, I realized if I didn't go around and talk to people and let them have this opportunity to sort of ask these questions, I couldn't be upset at them. And so I just started going around to these classrooms and giving people this opportunity. And I would talk to them about what it's like for Will to live with type 1. And I would show them the syringes and the insulin. And so that's what started my diabetes advocacy work. And then when I was 16, was chosen as the National Youth Advocate for the American Diabetes Association, which was a total shock to me, being this small town girl. And being chosen as the national spokesperson, getting flown all over the country, being invited to the White House to see President George W. Bush speak, getting to meet with the Secretary of Health and Human Services, Speaker of the House, getting to meet with our Minnesota U.S. senators, congressmen, just an incredible experience.
So then how much roughly do you think you would spend per month? Like, people will spend $1,200, say, and then they can't pay their rent.
So roughly, I pay $333 a month for my plan. It's a Medica plan. So for example, I use roughly 2 vials of insulin a month. I use 2 vials of Novolog. Okay. So those vials, when I go to my pharmacy, CVS or whatever, I would pay retail cost $340 a vial at my pharmacy. I know it varies. I've heard people who can get it roughly from $300 to $400. But at my pharmacy, they tell me it's $340. But when I went in January to get it, I paid out of pocket $597 to pick those 2 vials up. So just to keep myself alive for a month, I paid $597 out of pocket with a silver plan under MNsure. Okay. Then, because I'm on a continuous glucose monitor, for 2 months under my plan, to pick up 2 months of continuous glucose monitoring supplies, which is a durable medical equipment one, I had to pay not just over $950 out of pocket. Okay. And then, of course, I have doctor's appointments. I have rent. I have a graduate school loan. I have a car payment. You can see why this is such an issue. And you can see why, even though a lot of studies show that the best type of care for a type 1 is to be on an insulin pump and to be on a continuous glucose monitor,
Right.
it's cost prohibitive.
Yeah.
How does somebody do that if they're not making a lot of money? And I was with somebody at a hearing just a couple weeks ago, sitting next to me, a woman named Michelle. Her insurance plan, Humana, denies her a continuous glucose monitor because they say it's not medically necessary for her.
Wow.
And she says that the insulin that they force her to be on, which is the Walmart insulin, right, that we hear about all the time, which studies have shown in a type 1, you are at a much higher risk for these very severe low blood sugars, hypoglycemic reactions.
Yep.
So now they forced her to be on this insulin, which is terrible.
Yeah.
Absolutely, to me, inhumane.
Yeah.
Okay? When her husband is at work and she has to take this insulin, because they will not approve of a CGM and they don't have the money to pay for it cash, because who would?
Yeah, exactly.
She literally goes and lays out in her driveway so that if she passes out,
Somebody would notice.
somebody would see her. Now, what kind of world, what kind of country do we live in?
Yeah.
That is the health system we're in. You know? So to me, my work centers around making sure that these items are not items of luxury.
Right.
And I think we need to educate people to let them know why it's advantageous for health insurance companies to cover these things.
Yeah.
I know what it's meant to me to tell my story. I want people to tell their stories and feel empowered.
Yeah.
You know, to tell their story and to feel empowered to tell their story to elected officials, to testify before the Senate or for the House, and to meet with our elected official, you know, and feel like I'm the constituent. I vote you in or out of office.
Right.
You know, and I think sometimes
Hear
we
my
get that
voice.
backwards.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, and so I've been so honored to be the chapter leader, but I just feel like it is such a collective effort of our group that I'm nothing, you know, without all those members.
Right.
And I just can't wait to see like where the next year takes us.
Yeah. And for people to, do they apply to be in the member chapter, or do they? So if you apply, are you in it the whole time, or can you volunteer for one event?
Exactly.
Or?
So the great thing about our chapter is people can be a part of it in any capacity that they want.
Yeah.
So we actually now, because we're getting a little bit more organized, I'll say now in the second part of our year, we've actually created a form where if you email our email, you know, Minnesota Insulin, 4 all @gmail.com, we'll email you back a form, a link, where you'll put in your information, and then we actually have click check boxes of how would you like to be involved? Is that to actually be on a committee? Would that be to lend a certain expertise, right? So would that be social media? Would that be you like to write press releases? Do you like to help organize events, right? Whatever that could be, fill in the blank. Would you like to get involved on a policy level, right? Whatever that is, okay? So we have all these different ones. And then we get that, our outreach person, and then they'll follow up on that.
Oh, cool. Okay.
So it's going to be a little bit more organized. And so you can volunteer in whatever capacity. So it's not you know, you sign up and now you have to be at every single meeting and there's a membership requirement. We want to meet people with where they want to be involved at.
Which is awesome.
We also want to really be all inclusive of outstate Minnesota. You know, I'm from Baxter, so I'm 2.5 hours away from Minneapolis. So it's important to me that we're not just including Metro voices. It's important that we are including every single voice in the state of Minnesota. Right? We need full representation from every single city, every single point in the state of Minnesota. That's very, very important to me because we have very, very important stories to tell from rural Minnesota. And those are different stories maybe than we'd get from the Metro. And so we need to hear those stories and have those stories represented. So I know that we're going to also make a push this year to do more webinar types of either trainings or trying to get some of the meetings, via webinar.
Right. Yeah.
And so also we're looking for that type of feedback from people as well. Yeah.
One last thing. What do you have a tip for like newly diagnosed diabetics, people with diabetes? If they come to you and ask for something, is there one thing that sticks out to you that you would tell them about it?
I'll say 2 tips that I'd give people if they are recently diagnosed. One of those tips is to make sure that they're reaching out in some capacity to other people living with type 1 diabetes that are roughly in their age range.
Okay.
So if they live in a rural community like I did, in Paxter, that was difficult.
Right.
Back then, the ADA actually had chat rooms.
Okay.
That was a long time ago, back in '99. But so I would be in chat rooms.
Yeah.
Now they have the diabetes online community, which is just phenomenal.
Yes. Yeah.
So I would suggest if you're in a rural area and there's not like a diabetes support group or like I know some area hospitals have even like diabetes kids support groups or like kind of fun meetups.
Yeah.
If there's not something like that, or even if there is, hop on to the diabetes online community. I think they're very supportive, great resources, or like one of the diabetes private Facebook groups, or as a parent too. Very supportive, great advice, and make sure you are posting questions or anything, because no question is dumb or hasn't been asked before.
Exactly.
But make sure you are getting community support. 2, my other big tip is find the right diabetes care team. I'm always surprised, and again, I shouldn't be surprised, but I always want patients and people with diabetes to know that they are the boss, right? They're the boss. So if you go to an endocrinologist or a diabetes nurse educator and you do not like them, they are demeaning to you, they are shaming to you, they make you feel less than, fire them. Okay? Just because they have MD behind their name does not make them better than you. Okay? You will be the one living with this disease 24/7. My endocrinologist always put it great to me. He said, Quinn, you're the quarterback, right? I'm the coach. He said, ultimately, you're the one who's going to run these plays. And it's true. I'm making these decisions 99% of the time. He is the one who's going to give me all these different ideas. Okay? He went to medical school. So it's his job to give me different options that are going to work the best for me. But he ultimately knows he can't be a dictator. That's not going to work. So you want to find somebody who's a great coach, who's sympathetic, empathetic, and who wants to be a coach to you. So if you can't find a good care provider, find a new one. Reach out to the diabetes online community. Say you're living in this area. Do you have any suggestions? And trust me, they will give you their honest, candid opinions about doctors, diabetes nurse educators, a dietitian. They're phenomenal for that. Because I think that's what will set you up for success. There's nothing worse than being with a bad medical team that makes you feel like crap. And so it's always important to me to tell people you're in the driver's seat. Don't ever forget that.